Hey everybody, I'm Brian Dwyer, president of Robert Edward Auctions, and I'm joined here today by our operations director, Matt Clark, to discuss some of the incredible highlights from our recently concluded fall auction. Matt, this one was a big one, and I don't think there's anybody in the hobby, and probably not too many people outside of the hobby, that weren't aware of it. The Baltimore News Ruth, I mean, we have to start there. An incredible card, an incredible opportunity for REA. What does this card mean to you, and how are you thinking about the card? Talk to me briefly about what the last couple weeks have meant for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was the focal point of the auction, our biggest auction ever, and it was at the forefront. This is only the second one that I've ever actually seen in person, the first one to come to auction in the last 10 years. So it was obviously very exciting, really fun to watch. And obviously a great result. I mean, $7.2 million, the most expensive item that we've ever sold now, breaking our record from 2 years ago. So,
yeah, and I mean, $7.2 million becomes the most expensive Babe Ruth item ever sold. The previous record was his jersey. This outpaces that. It's funny, you say this is only the second one that you've ever seen. My first auction at REA, we had a Baltimore News Ruth. And I remember thinking, this is great. One of the rarest, most significant cards ever. We have a Wagner, we have a Baltimore News Ruth. We'll probably keep this coming. And it took many, many auctions to get one back into the mix.
Yeah, this was the first one we've had since.
Yeah. That was May of 2013, and here we are 10 and a half years later talking about it. I think you'll agree with me, but I would just love to get your take on it very quickly. I mean, we've told the story about the significance of the card. We've told the story about the provenance of this particular example. You were with me at the various events that we did for clients and VIPs. We were down at the Babe Ruth Birthplace and Museum. Talk to me very quickly about bringing this card back to Baltimore and what it meant, and what some of the conversations that you had with clients and prospective bidders were, and their excitement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, bringing it back to Baltimore, it was obviously on display for a long time at the museum. I think there's just something really cool about being in the place where Ruth was born, having the card on display, along with, another one that we had that's on loan at the display currently. I thought it was just, super cool to have. It was open to the public, so we had a lot of people able to come in, look at both cards who had never seen them before, maybe only ever heard of them. Obviously, at that point, it was getting a lot of media attention, so it was pretty, at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. So I think it was pretty cool for them to have the opportunity to swing by and take a look. And then, with bidders on a card like this, obviously being able to see it in person is a big step for them, and being able to make a physical connection in addition to the emotional one. So I think that played a very important role. I think it was great to kind of take it on tour, so to speak. The event we did in Baltimore was super cool. Again, being in the place where Ruth was born. The event in New York City that we did at the Raleigh Museum was, also super cool, displaying this piece, a lot of other auction highlights, and again, talked to a lot of good prospective bidders, not only for the Baltimore News Ruth, but some other rare Ruth pieces that we had and some other auction material.
Yeah, I think about the time that we spent in Baltimore, kind of in the shadow. I mean, we were in the very physical spot where Ruth was born, but we were in the shadow of where his whole career began. And, we've talked about this. We've obviously covered it in some of the media that we've done. We've covered it in the description that we wrote for the card. But, the Baltimore News only had a few months to capture Ruth in this set. And that is one of the things that I just find to be incredible. Obviously, we've talked about how significant the card is, first collectible to feature Ruth. But when you look at the timeline, he was on the Red Sox by the end of 1914. And, it's just amazing, no matter how you slice it, no matter what angle you come at it. This really is a great card, and the result is exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the best Ruth piece that's out there, essentially, is this card. There's only 10 of them known, so, it checks all the boxes as far as earliest known piece, the rarity factor, obviously, and then, there's just an allure about it at this, from a hobby perspective.
Without a doubt. So we could talk for hours about the Baltimore News Ruth, but there were some incredible items in this auction featuring Ruth also, but from many other areas of sport and collectibles. Let's just jump right into some of the other ones that we were fortunate enough to offer. I look at Gaudi's. I mean, Gaudi Ruths for a lot of people are what they associate with Babe Ruth and his cards. Obviously, he has 4 different poses in the set. We had a great PSA 8 red Ruth, $396,000, beautiful example. And then we broke a Gaudi set entirely graded by SGC, did almost $700,000 for the complete set, had the Ruths in high grade, had a Lajoie in high grade. Talk to me quickly about the Gaudi Ruths. I mean, obviously we spent a lot of time on the rookie, but what does Gaudi mean to you when you think of Ruth and when you think of card collecting, and why do you think some of these cards, especially some of these SGC 7s and 7.5s that we had, turned in record-breaking numbers? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Gaudis in general are the most widely collected Ruth cards out there. It's one of the most widely collected sets. He has the most poses in the set with 4, as you mentioned. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for collectors to get involved. I think that the design and the color of the cards is really attractive to people. So no surprise that they're very popular. But yeah, I mean, really strong prices on both high grade PSA and SGC examples. You mentioned the red SGC. The red PSA Ruth. I was really impressed with the red SGC. SGC 7 sold for $168,000. The yellow SGC 7 sold for $108,000. So again, I think that that shows not only strength behind the Gaudi market, strength behind the Ruth market, but also strength behind SGC. And we got a lot of really strong prices on SGC in this auction.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to go to one more Ruth SGC combination, and then we'll dive into some of the other items. But we had a Frederick Photo Ruth, and that is a card that not a lot of people have ever seen, not a lot of people know exists, not a lot of people understand the significance. I mean, not to overuse the word significant, but that card depicts Ruth in a Red Sox uniform, but labels him as a Yankee. Again, when you talk about time period, really quick turnaround for Frederick Photo to make that card. Only a handful of them known to exist. Had you ever handled one? Had you ever seen one? I mean, we got $168,000 for an SGC2. What did that card mean to you in this auction when you saw it come across your desk?
Well, the first thing I think that struck me was how cool it was to have 2 super rare Ruth pieces. I mean, there's only 10 Baltimore News, as we mentioned, and one of 6 Frederick Photos, was in this auction. So I think the combination of those two was pretty incredible, just by mere chance. But yeah, again, I mean, I think that anything surrounding that time period, in our experience, has traditionally been photos of when Ruth was traded to the Yankees or sold to the Yankees. The really popular items. We see it a lot. Photos, first appearance of Ruth in a Yankees uniform, and this card, as you mentioned, being depicted in a Red Sox uniform but labeled as Yankees, kind of has that same feel to it. So, really cool card, really rare. Kind of important for any complete Ruth collector. So I was pretty happy with the result. And again, I think it was just really cool to see the Baltimore News and the Frederick Photo, 2 cards that you never see in one auction.
Yeah. So I lied. I said I was going to move away from Ruth, but you gave me the perfect opening because you talked about original photography. And this auction had some incredible photographs. I mean, we've seen auction after auction, not just here at REA, but elsewhere. Original photos are really heating up, and there's a lot of attention being paid to them. I think it's fair to say, from at least what I've seen with respect to prices realized and what I've seen in conversations that I've had with clients, anytime you can find the original source image for a card, it's going to elevate that piece in the eyes of collectors. And this auction, we had one of the original photos used for Ruth's 1921 and then 23-24 exhibit cards. I was absolutely stunned when I saw this come into the office. The collector that consigned it to us paid a couple $1,000s for it 15 plus years ago. I knew it was that card image immediately. We had, oddly enough, an example of that card in this auction, an PSA 3 that sold for $14,400. Talk to me about original photographs. I know you work closely with some clients who collect those. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And on this Ruth photo, I think it was the best photo we had in this auction, hands down. What did it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, again, relatively early photo of Ruth on the Yankees, and then any time that you can connect the photograph to the image that was used on a card, I think it means a lot to collectors, especially, exhibits have really moved in the market over the last few years. So 21 in particular, I mean, it's a super cool pose, hands on knees, very popular, kind of iconic at this point. And this is the first time I've ever seen that photo. I think that there is, maybe 1 or 2 other examples known, but This is the first one that I can find that has sold, at least in any sort of recent times, and the first one that I've ever seen. So I was pretty happy with the result at I think $114,000. So that was pretty neat. I felt strongly it should be a six-figure piece. I was definitely hoping that it was going to get there, and it moved a bit past that. So I think that kind of shows the strength in the photograph market, the strength in the Ruth market, and again, I think anytime you can connect the card to the photo, it gets a little bit extra.
Yeah, all right, so now I'm really going to flip the script. We're going to move into modern, and there were two really great pieces that we had in this auction that I think a lot of people would not have necessarily thought they'd find in an REA auction. I mean, you and I have been doing this a long time. REA, very strong in vintage baseball pedigree. Over the last several years, we've made significant moves into other sports, non-sports, Pokemon, gaming, memorabilia, really trying to branch out. And this auction, and I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first, but this auction had two pieces that I just was a big fan of. We had a game-used Tom Brady jersey, and we had a 1990s Michael Jordan championship precious metal gems insert numbered to 50. I was stunned by both of those, really strong prices for both of those. Tell me what you liked about them and why.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you can get a solid six-figure result on a modern card like that, it really shows the strength in the modern market and the strength, that people, the support that people have for us offering those modern cards. So I was really impressed with the sale of the precious metal gems Michael Jordan at $240,000. I didn't expect to see the bidding get that high, quite frankly. So I think that, and that's a card that came to us ungraded, raw. We submitted it to Beckett at the consignor's request, and had a terrific result. And I think that everyone was really happy. It was a featured lot in this auction that I don't think any of us anticipated. So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and from a design perspective, I mean, people can go on our website and take a look, but I think it visually is just one of Jordan's best cards. I mean, my background's in baseball. I've become familiar with a lot of other areas and types of cards. This was a card that I had only ever seen pictures of. I had never seen in person. But, you've got Jordan dunking, leaping, Chicago skyline in the background. Just a really visually appealing card.
Yeah, I think that, the Jordan dunking thing is kind of the most iconic piece of it. I mean, if you look at any really iconic Jordan card, he's usually dunking, including his 86 Fleer, obviously. So I think that the Chicago city skyline adds a bit to it as well. But the dunking piece, I think, is what really gets collectors.
Yeah, and so we'll go to the Brady now. I mean, there's a theme here in these first couple minutes. We've got Ruth, we've got Jordan, we've got Brady, names that resonate among all collectors, strong names in their respective sports. This Brady was one of several game-used pieces that we had photo matched, which is an incredibly important element lately. We've seen that with the Ruth bat that we had last auction for over $1.3 million. Quickly, what are you seeing with respect to game used? $264,000 on this Brady. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my background obviously is in cards. So, as we sell more and more memorabilia, I'm learning more about it. But it seemed like a very strong price to me. I when it first came in, obviously we saw the estimate at $200,000 plus, and it certainly hit that mark. But it was a bit of a surprise to me. But yes, super cool jersey, 2013, photo match to several games, multiple touchdowns. And I think that again, for a lot of football collectors and memorabilia collectors, Brady is going to be a guy where there is, if they have the funds, the material is out there, and I think that it's going to be a great investment for someone long term.
You and I could spend days probably dissecting this auction. There were very strong results in a number of different sectors. Feedback in these couple days after the auction has been incredible. I mean, we had a record number of bidders, record number of sellers, records price realized throughout the auction. We are gearing up for our 2024 slate already, and January 11th kicks off the 2024 schedule with our first encore. What are you most excited for in 2024? What are you hoping we get consigned to us?
I don't know that I ever hope for any card in particular. I mean, it's easy to say, Ruth rookie, a Wagner, the Baltimore News Ruth, but I try to be, realistic about it and just go out there and make sure that our name is on the table for any potential consignment that comes in, and whatever the market's going to bear is what we're going to want to be in a position to offer. So obviously we've moved in the last couple of years into a lot more high-end memorabilia. As you mentioned, the the Ruth bat for $1.1 million last auction, and then obviously the Brady jersey this auction, and so I definitely hope to see more memorabilia. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a good year, and as we close this one out.
Well, thank you to everyone for watching. This has been a tremendous year for REA. Very thrilled to be able to wrap up 2023 with this iconic Baltimore News Ruth and the record-setting sale. Stay tuned to all of our social media channels and our website. We've got auctions starting in January. And any questions, feel free to reach out. We're excited to bring these great items to you, and we look forward to catching up with you soon again.